The Enigma of the Violets. From a young age, Emma had had a peculiar gift. She could remember with astonishing detail any moment of her life, as if her memory were a tape that she could rewind and reproduce at will. However, there was an inexplicable void in his memories. One afternoon, at the age of 5, he disappeared for 3 hours in the woods behind his house. He could never recall to say what happened, but since then, her life was marked by a strange detail. She always found violets in the most unexpected places. Now, at 27, Emma worked as a restorer of art in a museum in her small town. Her life was quiet, almost monotonous, until a series of events led her to question everything she thought she knew about herself. Everything began with a pintura. It was an old oil painting, dated 1863, that had arrived at the museum to be restored. It depicted a dark forest, illuminated only by a crescent moon. In the center, a mugere, with a white dress, held a bouquet of violets, staring at her intently. The strange thing was, not only that the woman seemed to be alive in the canvas, but that her face was identical to Emma's. "What OP? What about this?" asked Marco, his co-worker and best friend, while watching her inspect the painting. "It's unsettling," Emma replied, unable to take her eyes off the woman in the sea quadro. "Disturbing why? Because it resembles you?" "Exactly." Marco laughed, but Emma could not ignore the sensation that painting was looking at her. That night, while trying to sleep, M.A. dreamed of the painted forest. She walked among tall, shadowy trees, following the trail of violets that seemed to guide her somewhere. When she woke up, her room was impregnated with the suave aroma of the flowers. He decided to investigate the origin of the painting. The next day, he went to the museum archive, where he found the painter's name, Gabriel Arnault. According to the records, Gabriel, he had mysteriously disappeared after painting that work, and the model of the painting was never identified. Without knowing why, Emma felt the need to search further. Marco, always willing to an adventure, she accompanied him to the town where the painter had lived. There, they found a small bookstore that kept historical records of the area. "We are looking for information about Gabriel Arnault," Emma said to the old owner of the place. "Arnault, the damned painter," the man replied, looking at her curiously. "His story is not something many want to remember." "Why do they call him that?" she asked to Marco. "They say he fell in love with a woman who never existed. He painted her obsessively until she disappeared in the forest. Since then, some say that his spirit wanders there, looking for respuestas." Emma felt a shiver run down her spine. The old man gave them an old book with details about Arnault's work and a warning. "If you delve into this, be careful. Not everything is a mist. Rio wants to be solved." That night, back at the museum, Emma dreamed of the forest again. This time, she heard a voice whispering her name. Upon waking, she found a violet on a desk, next to the painting. "This is no longer a coincidence," he told Marco, who looked at the flower with disbelief. "What do you think it means?" "I think the painting is trying to tell me something." They decided to return. They went to the woods behind their house, the place where Emma had disappeared as a child. There, they followed a path that Emma vaguely remembered, until they reached a clearing where the ground was covered in violet. In the center, they found a moss-covered tombstone with a barely legible inscription, "Gabriel Arnault, 1835, 1863. His art will live forever." "This is impossible," Emma whispered, touching the pea. "Cold ivy? How can it be here?" While they tried to process what they had discovered, the air around them became heavy, and an ethereal figure appeared among the trees. It was the man of the picture, Gabriel Arnault, with the same dark eyes and tormented face. "Emma," he said in a soft but emotional voice. Finally, she recoiled, terrified but fascinated. "Who is S?" he asked. "I am Gabriel. And you are her." "Her? What are you talking about?" "The woman I loved, the woman I painted. You have returned to break the curse." Gabriel explained that he had sold his alma, painted to immortalize their love on the canvas. But the price had been her own existence. Since then, she had been trapped between the world of the living and the dead, waiting for Emma to return. Ra. This doesn't make sense, said Marco, trying to rationalize what he saw. I know, responded Emma, but I can't ignore it. Gabriel extended a hand towards Emma. If you help me, you will be able to remember what happened that day in the forest. Emma accepted, and upon touching his hand, a wave of memories flooded her mind. She saw Gabriel painting her in the clearing. She heard his laughter and felt the love they shared in another life. He also remembered the moment he disappeared, consumed by the pact he had made. What should I do? Emma asked, with tears in her eyes. You must destroy the painting. Only, thus I will be free, and you will be able to live without the weight of my shadow. Although the decision was painful, Emma knew it was the right thing to do. With Marco's help, they returned to the museum and burned the painting. While the flames consumed the canvas, she felt a part of her being freed. That night, the violet stopped appearing, but Emma knew that Gabriel had finally found peace. Months later, Emma and Marco began a relationship, building a life together full of laughter and love, without mysteries to torment them. But every time she saw Violet, she couldn't help but smile, remembering the man who taught him that love transcends even the barriers of time. End.